Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to all of our monday.com friends, our Microsoft friends, and some curious bystanders that have wandered into this webinar not knowing what it is. My name is Brock Fisher, and along with Geneva Strada, we'll be hosting a special joint Microsoft and monday.com webinar today. So, quick note on questions. You're probably going to see a lot of content today that gives you some ideas or some questions or you want to know some more about. Please put those questions in the Q&A little box on the bottom of your team's live event window. We'll try to answer those questions as we go, but if it turns into an absolute deluge of questions, we will cover off as many as we can at the end. So for the uninitiated, we're introducing you today to Microsoft Teams, monday.com, and in particular, it's a new integration that brings monday.com actually inside Teams. So it's kind of combining two great ingredients into a delicious dessert of collaboration and execution. Think Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, wine and cheese, shaved parmesan on top of homemade bolognese. Yes, it is lunchtime. I haven't eaten. I'm very hungry like you, so we should probably keep moving. So what do we got today? Well, a few special characters, Dave Haywood and Xanthi Smith from Datacom. So Dave heads up the marketing function of Datacom's enormous professional services team over in New Zealand. And Xanthi works in Dave's team as a cybersecurity and IT marketing expert. Geneve from Microsoft is a partner technical architect and Teams guru who will walk you through what Teams can do for you. And myself, looking deliriously happy in this obviously very staged photo. I'm Brock Fisher. I'm the head of partnerships for monday.com in Australia and New Zealand. And my job is the great privilege of helping the partners, the people who actually help you get the most out of monday.com. So the agenda today, it's really pretty simple. What is monday.com? What is Teams? Why bring these two very different platforms together? And how is the integration that we've worked on being used in the real world by real humans like Dave? So why have we done this integration, and why has Microsoft and monday.com come together? Well, Teams is not just chat and content and video, although all three of those things are really important and used by tens of millions of people around the world. It's actually a really powerful platform, and that platform invites other solutions like ours into that place where people are spending so much of their working day. In our case, it means moving things from a conversation to action, to getting actionable insights and delivering projects and processes when they're needed and giving transparency to the entire organization about what's going on. And that action is making us pretty popular. So from $4 million in revenue in 2016 to over $190 million in revenue USD this year and beyond. By the end of this year, we're targeting almost 250 million. We were a small team in Tel Aviv, and now we have over 500 employees, and now an office in Sydney to support our almost 8,000 customers across Australia and New Zealand, many of them on this webinar today. And it doesn't really matter if you're a hotel, a TV network, a tech company, or a supermarket. We can help you streamline all your programs, your processes, your projects that the team is working on. So look, there's hundreds and hundreds of use cases, but let's zoom in on three of them. And Microsoft absolutely hates it when I use that word. So the first one would be around transparency. So transparency across all the tasks, the projects, the things your team are working on. We can actually aggregate their effort and see if your team is twiddling their thumbs or on the brink of burnout. From a timelines perspective, and this is something really dear to Dave's heart, and Dave will be talking about a little later in the webinar, we can help show you where you are on those campaigns, that big projects that you're working on. And you can see this visually in an attractive way really quickly and then drill down on, okay, if something isn't being done, why isn't it, and how can we rectify it immediately? And then the last one is tracking. So there's not a team leader or a senior executive that doesn't love a dashboard. Now you can do this in a few minutes on monday.com, not sitting in a queue with IT for a few months waiting on some developer to be able to mock up something customized for you. So that's just a really brief introduction onto monday.com. I think now is a great time to go over to my co-host Genevieve, and she's going to walk you through what is Teams, if this is something that's fairly new for you.
Sweet, thanks, Brock. Just give me one moment. Great, so hopefully everyone is seeing that. Oops. Sorry, some technical difficulties over here. Of course, it would happen to me. So hopefully this is working now.
I can see that.
Great. Fantastic. Off to a rough start, but we got there in the end. So thanks, Brock, and thanks everyone for having me. My name is Genevieve Estrada, as Brock introduced me before, and I have the exciting job of helping our Microsoft partners build apps and custom solutions on Teams. So really getting to see and contribute to real innovation, real things that can improve the way that people work. And we have a prime example right here with monday.com, who's doing just that, leveraging Microsoft Teams to connect teams together so they can be remote ready and collaborating in minutes. But before we get to the exciting integration that we have together, let's take a quick step back and have a look at the Teams platform and what it's all about. So Microsoft Teams, it's the hub for teamwork and helps teams become more productive by having that single, holistic, and secure platform that brings everything that a team needs all into one place. So we can communicate through chat, meetings, and calls, which if you use Teams already, that's what a lot of people are familiar with. You can collaborate through the deep Office 365 integrations that exists. You can customize and extend with third-party apps, and in this case, a relevant example being with monday.com, and be able to do all of this work with the confidence that there's the underlying enterprise-grade security, compliance, and manageability that you expect from Office 365. But when you have so many different ways to collaborate, face-to-face, email, calling, text messaging, and all the other chat and collaboration platforms out there, what differentiates Teams and what makes it a more valuable and useful tool for users? And that's really where this customization and extensibility comes into play. We're not just integrating for integration's sake. Yes, there is value to have apps that you use every day next to your conversations, but where this really becomes valuable is when this helps you do your work better. And that's what we call real workplace innovation. It's no longer about what's the best platform, the best tool to use. In this new normal, especially with COVID times, where a lot of people are now having to work remotely, all of a sudden there's so much data to work with, so many different systems to use, and just a lot of things pulling our attention everywhere. So now we have this new problem of how do we process all of this and still be productive? How do we sift through the important stuff from all the noise and distractions? So when we talk about this idea of real workplace innovation, rather than the tool that you use to get the work done, it's really become the approach to modern work. And innovation doesn't necessarily have to be something new and radical. It can be as simple as integrating business processes so everything is more streamlined, automating routine tasks so you actually get that extra time back to do the things that's actually important to you, and bringing together all the apps you use into the context of your conversations and where you collaborate. So all of this in one place, no context switching required. If we translate this to real examples within Teams, it can look like being able to chat in the context of your work, where you can interact with the information that you have straight away. In this case, we have a dashboard right here. And by being able to collaborate on it here, you can draw attention to the bits you want without having to navigate away. Or the traditional way of sending a link to a dashboard and then having the person click on that to open it up, and then the dashboard opens up in another browser, for example. So it's all in one place here, no context switching required. or it can take the form of messaging extensions, which we find below the compose message over here. So by clicking on your app's messaging extension, you can search for documents, help desk tickets, or reports you want, whatever this looks like. And once you click on what you want, so in this case, it's low stock items, it posts it in my Teams channel, and now I can mention people who need to see it, and again, be able to collaborate around this and even action on it by clicking further to view more details or even chatting with my manager. So there's that choice of micro actions as well within this adaptive card. And all of this just shows us that we have a great opportunity here to meet the users where they already are, where they're already living for most of their workday, and how we can help them get more done. So I'll pass it back to the team who'll show you how exactly this comes to life through their integration from an improved workflow and project management perspective.
Cool, thank you, Genevieve. And I learned a new term today, some micro action, I think it was.
Yes.
And just let me know if you can see my screen again.
Yep.
Beautiful. So I think you've now got a fairly good idea of what monday.com does in 3 or 4 minutes, Teams, what they bring into the party. What we're trying to do now is show you how those two things, or those kind of areas of strength, can come together in an integration where monday.com is actually living inside Microsoft Teams. So here's a little video to give you a flavor of it.
Are you a Microsoft Teams user? Then you know how crucial good communication is to any team. With so many action items, files, project statuses, and all the back and forth, things easily fall through the cracks. That's where the monday.com app comes in. Monday.com helps Microsoft Teams users structure their communication and collaboration, visualize their work, and track it all in one place. With monday.com, you can create streamlined workflows by using boards, dragging and dropping building blocks, and automating tasks, all within one shared workspace. Embed monday.com seamlessly into any Teams channel, or chat and get the ball rolling on any project or workflow easily. Visualize projects your way. Use a timeline, calendar, charts, and other views to track your team's progress. Assign tasks and delegate projects to get a sense of your team's workload capacity at a single glance. Collaborate in the context of work, fix silos, and centralize your workflow in one place. Monday.com and Teams are a perfect match. Install the Monday.com app into your Microsoft Teams today.
That's an order. No, I think we've kind of talked about the theory of this, but now it's how's this actually getting used in practice? And so it's a great privilege of ours to have Dave and Xanthi from Datacom here, who are avid users of both of these products, and they've been using the integration, and to get their thoughts on how they use monday.com and why. So Dave, I'll pass over to you.
Thanks, Brock. Okay, nervously sharing the screen, of course. Can you see my screen okay there? And hopefully the presenter was right at the end. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, cool. So hi everyone, my name's Dave Hayward. I'm the General Manager Marketing here at Datacom, and my fellow marketing manager Xanthi is also with us. And together we are proud.
Sorry to interrupt there, mate. I'll just get you to put it onto presenter view so they can see the whole screen.
No way. Okay. All right. 1 second. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So as I mentioned, Xanthi and I are part of CMD here at Datacom, and that's the Communications Marketing and Digital Marketing team, of course. You may know of Datacom, but you may not know what we do. So we're made up of about 6,500 staff in 24 locations around the globe, but we are Australasia's homegrown tech company, and we're sort of behind a lot of the government agencies and enterprise businesses that everyone here works with every day. So, just to talk a little bit about CMD itself. So the Communications Marketing and Digital team is a relatively new thing for Datacom. We started in August of 2018. And so I think we number just over 20 people, and so for a big company like Datacom, that's a very small team. And within that, we cover all the main disciplines of communications, marketing, brand, and digital. And so we have to interact. We're all on the tools. We work together very closely. And I think probably one of the probably to date, our combined efforts, the achievement that we're probably most proud of is that we launched Datacom.com 3 months ago, and it's a beautiful content engine. We're still building up content in it, but it's all about new stories and new adventures for Datacom. So that's the CMD part of the equation. But obviously, to get those new stories and those new adventures, you need control. And so that control we get from two tools that we absolutely love and are essential to our practice. And the first of these is Teams. So I mentioned that we haven't been together for very long. We're a new team, and because of that, when COVID hit, just like everyone in the world, we discovered that it was affecting both our professional and personal lives. And what specifically for our team it really did for us is that it exposed that some of our processes, which we've been working on before, they really weren't up for the job when we were all working from home. So we're used to having a dispersed team. We're right across New Zealand, Australia, and we have designers in Philippines. So we were used to all of those things. But what we discovered is that through the COVID lockdowns in Australia and New Zealand, we worked really hard on our processes, and part of that is through Teams. Teams, it helps that Datacom is actually a provider of Teams to all of those companies that we talked about. So we understand about adoption, and adoption of Teams is not just about all the fantastic tools there. It's about the people and the processes and all of the things that work there. A thing that was really fantastic for us is that monday.com syncs with Teams, because monday.com is a project management software we've been working on for just under a year. And so we went through a big selection process when we were looking for project management software. And one of the things that we were very fortunate is that we have a really passionate advocate and power user in our team, Xanthi. Xanthi is streets ahead of everyone else in terms of technical ability, her enthusiasm, and her understanding of the strategic capabilities of monday.com. So what that meant for us is that we had to take on this new software and look at a range of different technical capabilities and all the other ones. And in the end, for me, there are a couple of things that are really important as a user. Now, obviously, I'm a bit of an old sea dog as far as being in marketing concerned. I'm positively ancient. So I've used all sorts of project management software in the past. Monday.com has a similar capability to that project management software, but it's got some interesting two parts of it that I find very useful. One is it's very intuitive to use, and that was important to us because we have a lot of new users like myself, and we needed to be able to work in it in a way that suits our working style. The second thing is that it really looks at the emotional state of project management that I think is highly underrated. It's an often, in marketing, we talk a lot about the fact that humans are feeling machines that think, not the other way around. So for me, when I'm doing a marketing campaign, and like I said, we're all on the tools, this is a huge part of my job. I feel like my marketing campaigns always go from 0 to 90% in just like light speed, but I get stuck in those niggly details around the 10%. That's when you're getting approvals, you've got all those sorts of things. So monday.com, like my little battery that I've got in this picture here, it really talks to those emotional things. It allows me to understand not only what's ahead, but also how far I've come, and also see and triage those at-risk elements that suddenly need to do it. Because we've all experienced as marketing managers that thing where you've got that one asset that is for some reason stuck in development hell and is holding everything up. So, that's part of what monday.com is. And just to give you an example, I've just gone live on a small campaign yesterday, and I have a completely green battery with a little sliver of red because I'm waiting for a customer approval. But that's a pretty good result in my opinion. So, just to finish on where I want to go as a new user and as a thing. I really admire Xanthi in the way that she is able to work into the deeper functions of monday.com. And for me, there's really two parts that I'm working on in the next month or so. The first part is looking at my individual campaigns run pretty beautifully on monday.com, but my overall go-to-market in New Zealand, it's actually very individually put together. So I'm going to work on an automation within monday.com that pulls all of those things together, and so that I can collaborate with my colleagues as well, because we all work in each other's, we all got different responsibilities, but they overlap a lot. So just making sure that when I've got a colleague who's got a really great campaign and market, that I'm able to align with that, maybe leverage off it. There's all of these sorts of options that become available when you start doing that sort of stuff. So that's really it from my point of view. And yeah, I'm going to hand it over to our much more advanced power user, Xanthi.
Awesome, thank you. Hi everyone. Just checking everyone can hear me all right, because I've been having sound troubles all day.
Yep, we can hear you.
Awesome.
I can hear you perfectly, Xanthi.
Sharing my screen now. I pre-warn you. Okay, no pre-warning required. So the way that we use Teams and Monday is not too advanced. It's actually pretty straightforward, which is great. But as Dave mentioned, we have a resource-constrained team. We are across various different territories, and we all work on different lines of businesses. So our most important thing that we need sort of straight away is a good oversight of what everybody else is working on, a consolidated view of that, and something that's easy to navigate. So we have set up what we're calling our CMD activity calendar, and we sort of pivot between two views. So this just shows us what's coming up and when. We've set it up so that it's color coordinated by line of business. And this is something that we can then export and share to the rest of the business quite easily, quickly. It's visual, it's easy to consume. So that's perfect for us. And then when it's just the team working on it, we tend to just look at it from a main table perspective. And through this view, we can see what the activities are, who owns it, what stage it's at. And my favorite part is the fact that we're able to filter it based on either the campaign name, the line of business, but more importantly, the sort of overall theme that we're working to, the target audience that the campaigns we're working on is going to touch, and which industries. So that way we can make sure we aren't spamming our audience and we aren't clashing with each other. So that's quite handy. And just to visualize that for you guys real quick, I've just picked a random view, and we can see, okay, we've got this one e-health block coming up. So that makes it simple for us. When we jump on our Monday morning whip calls, we can just zoom through it, and it covers everything from comms, marketing, all the way through to digital and design. So it's nice and simple for everyone. And we access it through our sort of general channel here, and it's just an extra tab, so nobody struggles to get onto it. And then in addition to that, some other ways in which we're using it. This one is to work on our brainstorming and collaboration. So if we look at customer stories, what sort of customers can we start talking to? What can we build out, etc. And what I like about this view is it shows us which line of business, the status of it, location, and again, we touch on the industries, themes, target audience, etc. So this is great for brainstorming. We can add to it. It's a living document. It's nice and straightforward, and it's pretty. It's fun to look at. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on, well, actually the second last thing, because I just remembered something else I want to show everyone. But this one is really geared towards our stakeholders outside of the marketing team, predominantly sales. So at the moment, I'm working on 4 different go-to-market initiatives for one of the lines of business, and they're all due to be delivered within a week of each other. So it's a pretty tight little schedule we're running here. And because I'm working off of 4 different boards, the sales guys just don't really consume it in the same way that I do. You know, they have a very different way of viewing information quickly, and they're very visual in terms of how they consume the information. So this just gives them a quick snapshot of the overall progress, how it's looking by solution. And I just want to let everybody know that I've only just started these, which is why there's no green on here, which is really depressing, but I apologize. And it also can show the workload of everybody on the projects. The red circles obviously means we're at capacity, but it's just a really good way to manage expectations across the business as well. And then the last part of this dashboard is the Gantt view. So our sales team are, like I said, visual, and this is just an easier way for them to have a look at what's coming up and when it's due, rather than having to look through the list view, which is good for me, not so great for them. And then the last thing is just managing our workloads is a real challenge for our team. Even though we all specialize in a certain part of the business, we also have all of these ad hoc responsibilities on the side. Now, one of mine is data analysis. So when the teams need to look at what's going on in the market for their areas, they usually come straight to us, but we get bombarded and it's hard to sift through it, prioritize. So this feature, which is fairly new to Monday, is probably my favorite at the moment. The ability to set up a form and capture that information from our colleagues, and then once they've submitted it, the people who are responsible for managing this, the request, I just put a made up little request in here to show everybody, but the request comes through here and then we can sort of work through when it's due and prioritize in that manner. And what we've done with this particular one is only the people who have to manage the requests have access to it. So we can maintain some cadence around data privacy and compliance, and it just keeps us safe and protected. I work in the cybersecurity part of the business, so that's quite important to me. And that is the fastest, quickest way to show everybody how we're currently using Monday. It's great. I did also see that there is a question from the audience about messaging within Teams, and the answer is yes, you can. Once you've set up the tab, there's just this little speech bubble here, and you can have conversations depending on which board you've linked with the collaborators here. So this is our comms strategist having a play around on here, but it's pretty straightforward. Just it works like Teams chat normally does. And that's everything I have to share.
Thank you, Xanthi, and I'll get you to keep your screen, get you to keep presenting your screen, because I think there's quite a few questions that people have had. Is one of them is kind of related to that chat question. Have you had to train people to maybe, use the Teams plus Monday integration and make sure they're keeping the chat in one place and you're not kind of separately getting a text message or an email or doing a video conference or other bad habits?
Yes. So the great thing about Monday is that when people make changes in the boards, whether it's through the web portal like this or even through the Teams integration, you get notified, and you can sort of control how those notifications come through to you. In regards to training the team, I just recorded a quick 3-minute video to show them how to link it to start off with. And then we just had a session to go through our calendar where I just touched on these things anyway. Monday itself is super intuitive, and our team is very familiar with Teams anyway. So picking up these behaviors and habits wasn't a challenge for the team. Everybody's pretty good at it. Yeah, no training required. People just pick up the cadences, and it's worked really well for us. And
Dave, maybe a question for you. I mean, for a role like yours, yeah, it's a marketing role, but you're also basically a herder of people, of projects, of tasks, and it's kind of as you were saying, the first 90% is not too stressful. It's the last 10%. How do you manage that last 10%? How do you kind of make sure that you don't go live with a campaign when you've still got little bits of red on your dashboard?
Well, I think the answer is that it's just, monday.com is a tool, so it's really how you use that tool. There's a couple of things that Xanthi's put in which are really helpful. One is that you can move at risk. You can have stuff that if it goes over a certain time frame, it triages it and puts it in an urgent list. So yeah, here we go. So you can put stuff in that gets stuck in development hell, as I said. I think the other thing also to be mindful of, and almost all marketing managers, regardless of what project management software they use, is to always have a backup plan, because if you've got content or something that needs customer or stakeholder sign off, you need to have something back up to kind of cover off it. And so yeah, for me, it's always having a few ghostwritten articles up your sleeve in case that customer story doesn't come through. Or I mean, we've just had one which has had 4 revisions and the customer did ultimately decide not to go ahead for various reasons. So there's always that sort of aspect of it. I guess the thing where Monday comes in is that it visualizes all of that, and you can kind of see it coming up to that last week. And again, it comes down to an emotional thing, because I've launched a few campaigns in my time, and every time I go to launch, I've still got a knot in my stomach. There's still that awful feeling when you're about to click live and you're convinced that your proofreading skills aren't up for it, all that sort of stuff. So I think the llama farm, I love the llama farm, those sorts of things just really help you along the way, give you those little hits of serotonin, and keep you rolling.
Love it. Yeah, it's a llama farm. I think was done by some guy in our Tel Aviv office as a bit of a joke, and the number of people who kind of grasp onto that and say that that's their favorite feature. Xanthi, I know that you've been really the champion of monday.com and the champion of kind of getting people to use the tool and getting teams use and getting people to use, stick to those kind of platforms. Any tips and tricks for other people on the call to kind of get that adoption going?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is just understanding that everybody has a different preference in how they like to work. So Monday's worked well for us because every marketing manager, for example, they process what they've got to do different to the next person, and they have the ability to set these boards up in a way that works to their preference. So adopting it then becomes more effective because you can work in the way that you like to work. You can make the boards look how you want. You can view it in a Kanban view or a timeline view, whatever your preferences are, it exists. So I think just getting everybody to understand the flexibility that Monday has to offer was crucial. And actually integrating it with Teams is what increased our team's adoption of monday.com, because at the start they felt like there were too many tools, because we do use a combination of Teams and Teams Planner and Monday. So there was the feeling that we're asking them to use too many tools, but the minute it integrates, technically it feels like you're only using one. So that was a big driver to getting everybody to really spend more time on monday.com.
Great, thank you. And look, there's just a few more questions that have come through. So from Darren, can you create channels in Teams to align with the Monday projects? You absolutely can. So you'll have your Teams channels, and then you can have a attached Monday board in line with that channel. From Matt, can you track time spent on a task versus allowed? So actually, is this something you guys are using, time tracking, to kind of work out how long you're spending on tasks?
Start, and I'll just add it here whilst we're talking. It is something I used at the start, but that was just more for my very OCD, so I got satisfaction out of it. But it is something we can also add for when we have contractors working on stuff who are being paid by the hour. And it's great. It depends on how you set up the board, obviously, whether you want to track by group or by actual task. But yeah, it's straightforward and easy to use. So you just press start and then it goes.
Yeah, and you can control that manually, or you could do it or put in hours after the fact, and then you can measure that against how long you'd planned in your timeline to allocate to that task to work out if you're over or under. Another question from Lorraine here around what's the process to implement the integration. So this is something to talk to your Microsoft partner about if you're wanting to get monday.com added to Teams. And Genevieve, you'd know a little bit more about this process from an admins and permissions perspective, but it's probably left best to your partner to make sure it's turned on for users.
Yeah, Datacom can certainly help if you need us to.
Nice plug, Dave, and that's a very good point. I mean,
that's definitely something that we do, and we do it pretty well. So yeah, happy to help with that.
Well, we promised to have a short, punchy session for you. I think we've only managed to go a few minutes over, and thank you everyone for your questions. We've got a record of all of them. We'll be sending a recording of this webinar out to you afterwards, and if there's any questions we missed, we'll also post the answers to those in the follow-up email. I really want to thank our friends at Datacom New Zealand, Dave and Xanthi, for jumping on and taking us through how you use it. It's great to hear from you, not just the vendor. And also Genevieve, thank you so much for co-hosting this with me. At that moment, we'll sign off and have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.